Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look into tropical storm, soon to be Major Hurricane Helen. And as of now, this is a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm. And let's go ahead and take a closer look at the track here. Already have some tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches up for Cuba and portions of Mexico. But this is expected to make it to a 75 mile per hour Category 1 hurricane around 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and then strengthen to a 90 mile per hour Category 1 hurricane around 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And then it is expected to reach major hurricane status around 8 a.m. on Thursday. And that's going to be about a Category 3 hurricane, is what the National Hurricane Center is saying as of now, and then showing it staying as a 115 mile per hour Category 3 hurricane. But we will have to watch for this to get upgraded possibly to a Category 4 hurricane, maybe even higher, but most likely I think this will be upgraded to a Category 4 hurricane, possibly a low end. But we will have to just see. But we already have some hurricane watches and tropical storm watches for portions of Florida. And then we even have some tropical storm warnings down here in the Keys. But let's take a look at the National Hurricane Center. This is the more traditional look. And here it is right now. This area in the orange here has tropical storm wind speeds. And then it is, once again, expected to become a major hurricane around 8 a.m. on Thursday, and then make landfall around 8 p.m. on Thursday. And this will have a tornado threat, I do want to mention here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Excuse me. So this is the day 2 severe weather risk, and it's not really going to be too bad as of now. Sorry about that. But it could, and it most likely will, get bumped up to a slight risk somewhere into here is where I'm thinking they might put a slight risk, and that was a terrible drawing. We're just going to have to roll with that. But as of now, there's a 2% tornado risk in this whole area, and this goes all the way into portions of Georgia and Alabama, and then includes Miami all the way up to Orlando. Not to Jacksonville, but very close. And Tallahassee, you are in this, but just barely. But then the day 3 risk here also have a marginal risk. Most likely will be upgraded to a slight risk, and I think they will add the slight risk somewhere into here. And then I'm going to draw a black area. I think the marginal risk will be extended somewhere into there. So that's what I think they're going to do with that risk. They usually don't upgrade it they don't usually upgrade it to a slight risk until the day of the event with tropical systems. But as of now, just a 2% tornado risk with that. And most likely we'll have a 5% wind risk, as there is a 5% wind risk with the risk tomorrow. But let's take a look at some of these models here, starting with the GFS model. Starting off around 8 p.m. on September 25th, shows it as a 990 millibar borderline Category 1 hurricane. Most likely could be a little stronger than that, but we will have to watch. It does start to strengthen this to a 978 millibar Category 2 hurricane here around 2 p.m. on September 26th. And then strengthens it a little bit more to a borderline major hurricane here on September 26th, around 8 p.m. And then it does make landfall as a borderline major hurricane. This model run is a little further to the east as of what it has been, so it wants to bring it a little closer to maybe Savannah instead of to the west of the Macon area. So it does want to bring it more east. I could see that happening. There is still a pretty good chance that it could go further east, but we will just have to watch. And then it maintains hurricane strength until about South Carolina, and then it weakens, and then basically evaporates as it hits a trough. Next up is the Canadian model, once again starting this around 8 p.m. on September 25th. This is verifying a little stronger, so we could have some faster strengthening versus what the GFS is showing. But it strengthens this to a 975 millibar, borderline Category 3 hurricane, but most likely a strong Category 2 hurricane. Makes landfall in Florida. And this one is a little further west, so it wants to bring it up into central Georgia. And then, once again, heads on out. Doesn't really do too much after that. Next up is the Icon model. This one is verifying a lot stronger than the GFS and the Canadian model. But once again, starting this around 8 p.m. on September 25th, wants it to already be a major hurricane in the early morning hours of the 26th, and then just continues to strengthen it. Wants to get this down to a borderline Category 4 hurricane, possibly a low-end Category 4 hurricane. Makes landfall a little further west into portions of the Big Bend of Florida. That's what y'all consider it. And then keeps it as major hurricane status through central Georgia and takes it into South Carolina and then gets shredded by that trough. But I do want to take a look at this. I mean, look at how strong it gets. It's not been showing anything this strong, but this is very possible for this to happen. But I don't want to scare anybody. But this could be very catastrophic, and we will take more looks at that here in a little bit. But next up are the hurricane models. This is the H-Wharf model. We will start this around 8 p.m. on September 24th. Wants this to already be a hurricane, verifying a little too strong, but we will have to watch for that. Wants it to be a Category 3 hurricane in the early morning hours of September 26th. Continues to strengthen this down to Category 4 status, and then makes landfall here in the Big Bend of Florida. Would have a nasty eye wall off of this model, and then once again continues to keep it as strong Category 3 strength into Georgia, and then maybe even maintains hurricane status all the way up into South Carolina. But I do want to mention we will have a tornado threat in this area, most likely, if it goes with the National Hurricane Center cone. But I do want to mention there are some bands on this run that look like they could be tornadic on the west side, which we don't usually see. But we'll have to watch for a tornado or two, possibly even on the west side as well. But once again, very, very strong system. If this does happen, this will probably be one of our worst case scenarios. I don't want to scare anybody once again, but this could be a very strong storm. Next up is the HMON model. Once again, verifying too strong, but it does get it to a Category 1, borderline Category 2 hurricane in the morning hours of September 25th. Strengthens this a little slower, but does get it to major hurricane status in the afternoon of September 26th, and then makes landfall as a borderline Category 4 hurricane, and then brings some hefty impacts into Georgia and the Carolinas. And you can see the tornado threat on this one a little better here. We would definitely have a very severe tornado threat with this system. And once again, we call the east side of the system the dirty side, as that brings along the worst impacts, and that does include tornadoes. Next up is the H-half-A model, verifying a little better, but still a little too strong. This is a 999 millibar low pressure, and the H-half-A model shows it as a 996, but pretty close. It does get it to hurricane strength as it's gets it to borderline hurricane strength as it's passing in between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba. That is what the National Hurricane Center is saying as well, so it matches. Excuse me here. And then it doesn't want to strengthen this as fast, gets it to a Category 3 hurricane, makes landfall in Florida, and then brings some hefty impacts to Georgia and the Carolinas. And I do want to mention once again, this model is showing where that tornado threat would be very well. So definitely would need to watch for the tornado threat all the way back into Florida and possibly all the way into South Carolina. and maybe even into North Carolina sometimes, at some spots, and then get shredded. Next is the H-half-B model, verifying pretty well, a few millibars off, but not too bad. Gets it to hurricane strength as it's passing between Cuba and Mexico. And I do want to mention it actually makes a landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula off of this model, and then starts to strengthen it at a regular pace. But doesn't strengthen it too strong. This one's kind of right in the middle, but gets it to a pretty strong, or most likely a pretty strong Category 3 hurricane, or about a middle grade Category 3 hurricane. And then, once again, brings a hefty tornado threat to Georgia and the Carolinas, and then brings some pretty bad conditions into Georgia as well. But I want to go back to the National Hurricane Center's outlook and take a look at the storm surge map. We could have up to 15 feet of storm surge in the Big Bend of Florida, which would be very, very significant in some of these areas. I'm not even going to try to pronounce some of these names, but I will try this one. The Ockalochnee River, possibly, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they can have up to 10 feet of storm surge, maybe even a little more, as they are right on that middle part between the 10 feet of storm surge and 15 feet of storm surge. So this will be very significant in the storm surge wise. Excuse me. Sorry for the grammar. But in Tampa, could have up to 8 feet of storm surge. That would be very bad. But I do want to take a look at the flooding risk as well. We already have a moderate risk of flash flooding from portions of Florida all the way up to the Carolinas. And that's at least a 40% risk of flash flooding. And then that also includes Tallahassee and Atlanta, Georgia. And then I do want to take a look here at the wind speed probabilities. This is for tropical storm wind speeds. So this is the chance to have tropical storm wind speeds just for the next couple of days. And there's already a 90 to 100% chance here in the Gulf of Mexico. And then already some areas in the Carolinas getting a low chance. And then even central Georgia has about a 60 to 70% chance. So already getting up there. But this will increase in the next few days as this system does get closer. And then the hurricane force wind speed probabilities are already increasing in the Gulf of Mexico and a little bit in Florida. But once again, this will increase as the system moves closer. And I do want to mention we will be having our first live stream on the Stormchaser 575 channel. So if you're watching this on the Stormchaser 575 channel, it will be on this channel. But if you are watching this on the Georgia Storm Trackers channel, it will be on the Stormchaser 575 channel. So we will be having a live stream on Thursday and Friday as long as everything goes as planned. And then we could possibly even have one on Wednesday. So just watch out for that. Make sure to turn on the notifications for when those live streams do start. And make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that you will get those notifications. But with that, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one, everybody. Stay safe. Make sure to evacuate if you are in an evacuation zone. And just please stay safe and make some final preparations before Hurricane Helene. So with that, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Make sure to tune into those live streams, and I will see y'all then. Have a good one.